Hey everyone, it's CatZ, and we're gonna be doing a video on a 10 versus and a 1 versus 10 AI challenge today. This is for the pig challenge, and you basically have to beat 10 hard AIs as fast as you can. So this is my best attempt so far after a day of work, and yeah, let's just jump into it and see how I did it and my time and whatnot, and I'll walk you through my process. So here we go. Okay, so we are going to be playing with Zerg. This challenge is considerably easier with Protoss, in my opinion. So first things first, this is a map that you can find in the melee tab on StarCraft. You just have to type pig 1v10 and it will show this map. So now onto my Zerg approach. We are going to be starting with a strategy today. I have a few ideas, but I think this one's probably the one that I have the most faith in, and it's going to be a gasless strat. Right, so let's look at the layout of the map really quick. Very close base here. So we are going to be going for a 16 hatchery first, and because the base is so close, we can actually just rally one of these first drones over to it and be at a good time. I messed up there, obviously, sending 2 drones by mistake, but that is going to be okay. We are going to drop an expansion. The next expansion is here, and then here, and then you can expand inwards, but it's further away. So these expansions are probably the last you want to take because they're going to be the latest to basically saturate. Unless you're heavily saturated in this base, then you can take this one, and if you're saturated in this base, you can take this one. Likewise, you can take this one and this one if you want as well for faster reinforcements or something of the sorts. So that's the layout of the map on your side. Then we have a choke here, which seems to be where most players seem to make their hold. So they make double evo chambers and stuff like that. At least that's what I saw Pig do. And then they bug the AI with the double evo chambers, and they defend behind with spines, right? So this is a decent choke to defend. My problem with that is I don't want to invest into the evo chambers, and I find that this position is insanely strong. So this is what we're going to be going for, because if we can establish this position, we can sit our army here, and then we have access to defend from both sides. We have tiny chokes leading into a wide open ramp where we can place a lot of buildings basically, and it's just really nice, right? It's not an easy defense. So I'm gonna pause really quick here to go over what we have been doing. We are going for a 4 hatch before pool, which is a little bit crazy, I know. The idea here is to get my hatcheries up and working as fast as possible. We are not prioritizing queens at this stage in the game. My 3rd hatchery was actually not here, but rather here, right? So let's just resume and we can talk about it as we go. But basically this hatchery, I noticed the creep, because it extends you know, in a certain radius, actually spreads over here, which will allow us to get a queen over and push the creep a little bit faster. So instead of taking this hatch, we're going to be taking this hatch, right? So 4 hatch before pool is where we're going. Then we go for the spawning pool, and we are going to be saturating slowly. There's a lot of details that are going to be mixed or missed here because I can't talk as fast as I can act in StarCraft. But basically there's a lot of optimizing here, right? So first queen, for example, the pool finishes. First queen that we will make is here. The next queen that we should make is here, and you want to make an overload at 30 to supply with this to not get supply blocked as well. So next queen is here, next queen should be here, and if we make a queen here, we can start making queens on other places where it's already spawned. And all the time in between, I am making drones. Remember, the hatcheries also give you a little bit of extra supply. That is why you don't make your next overlord until 32. And the reason why you want to make the queens in the furthermost bases is A, because this queen needs to spread the creep tumor as fast as possible. I have timed this build so that we can defend 5-minute attacks, which are the most common with the AI. There are some attacks that hit earlier, and when they do, it's very difficult to recover. So we would just leave those games because, you know, there's some Ling Bane attacks that hit a little bit earlier, some Roach attack that hits a little bit earlier, and some like 2 Marauder, a few Marines attack that hits a little bit earlier. So if we get those, we skip it because we want to be as efficient as possible, as this is a speedrun challenge, right? As our bases are getting saturated in the back, I'm gonna pause here really quick again because it's moving a little bit too fast. But basically we rally to this base as soon as it finishes, and when this base is about to finish, we set the rally from the main here. right? For the same reason that we make the first queen here, which is this base is furthest from saturation. So we want to saturate evenly so that we can stay gasless for as long as possible, because gasless makes it so that your economy can explode afterwards, since hatcheries and drones only cost minerals. So the more you delay your gas, the better it is, basically, right? Unless we're hitting a very specific timing, which we're not. We're mostly just defending, and then we want to move out when we're maxed. So we're gonna start taking the gases as we can. When we get saturated over here, we're gonna take these gases as well, and the same will be true for the other bases, right? So we're gonna make 4 spines here at the front. This queen drops a total of 2 creep tumors, and the reason for that is I want the creep to spread a little bit faster, because we really need to get situated here as soon as possible, as early as possible. So we don't need the lair super fast, but soon enough we'll make it. You'll notice I don't drop creep tumors here because I'd rather have energy for transfuse. Instead, I preset my overlord so that I can poop creep when the lair finishes. And here comes the first attack. This is a little bit unlucky for us at the same time. It's unlucky because we're repositioning the spines, and this attack is hitting a little bit early from one of the 10 AIs. We are lucky because it's Helium Marine, right? So their DPS, their damage output is really low against spines, which means we are going to be able to hold in spite of how early this is hitting and surprising us, and the unluckiness of us repositioning the spines as we're going. So that is going to be happening. In the meanwhile, we're going to be macroing up and just continuing to try to, you know, make drones and whatnot. And I could obviously be a little bit tighter, a little bit better on my macro, but you don't want to lose any queens if you can help it. Here already lost one there. The transfuse wasn't available, or the transfuse wasn't fast enough rather from me. This queen doesn't have transfuse, so we might lose a spine. And again, this is not too bad for us because it's adepts mostly, and adepts don't have a lot of damage output against spines. The queens, you will have noticed at 4:30, 4:40, I pull them to the front so that they arrive by 5 minutes, which is when we expect the first attack will hit. And then we just kind of leave them at the front, and that's one of the benefits of having this many hatcheries. So we'll remake queens later or as the game progresses, and we will pull these queens back when we feel safe. But for the time being, I feel like we need them. And you can see we're not floating very much money because we have so many hatcheries, and we're going to be continuing to expand here as we continue to get our economy situated. Lair finished. When Lair finishes, I drop a Hydra and an Infestation Pit, and then I make 3 Evo Chambers. Because our main composition that we're going to be going for here is Lurker Link Hydra. I find that there's probably nothing better for Zerg. I have tried Muta once, but just because of how the AI works, it doesn't work out too well, because you can kill bases and harass, but you can't really kill the armies, and that means then eventually, if you're not killing the armies, you're going up against, you know, 2,000 supply out of... right, potentially out of the AIs, and that's not a good thing to do with Mutalisks. There's just no way you can beat them. Now, Banelings are here, so you'll notice I'll pull a queen forward because the Banelings kind of glitch out, or they're kind of stupid, and they go onto the queen. So that queen did a great job of absorbing all of those Banelings. In the meanwhile, we've continued to macro. We're gonna start triple upgrades here. And yeah, we're just chilling, kind of. So we're gonna continue to make Hydras. I'm gonna put it now on first-person view. You'll notice I leave a gap in between the spines as well, so that the queens can walk a little bit more easily from side to side, so that they can hide and so that they can reassess the situation and do better by the side that is being attacked. Marauders on this side, so that's pretty scary. We already have our first Hydras up. When the Hydra then was done, we dropped a Lurker then. And when the Infestation Pit is done, which you just saw, we drop a Hive so that we can get Lurker upgrades and whatnot going. So next attack is here. We want to minimize Hydra losses, so we're gonna hide them behind the spines. They have a lot less HP than the spines. So yeah, we are gonna try to do damage with those from behind. We're gonna start morphing Lurkers in case there's a next wave coming, as we are holding this wave already. And once you get to Lurkers, you are pretty much safe, right? So no amount of ground units is gonna break through, and it's very rare for the AI to bring air units or many air units. So sometimes they have a carrier, sometimes some mutas, sometimes, but they never really harass, for example, the Middle Alliance. I think I got harassed like once or twice by a Raven or an Oracle, but for the most part they don't. So yeah, Lurkers are just kind of king against the ground. The AI is not particularly good at getting set up or going for like siege tanks and stuff like that out of range of the Lurkers. Sometimes they do, but it is pretty rare. So yeah. Here we go, we've continued to saturate. Now we are at 150 supply. We have 86 workers. I've experimented with a lot of different worker numbers. I was going for 100 workers or so before. But I find my army is too little, and army retention is extremely important in this kind of game, because the stronger your army is, the less units you lose. And the AI is very bad at fighting. It's not gonna flank you. It's just gonna kind of attack out of sync. It doesn't even always attack with all of their forces at once, right? Or with their allies, rather. So it's kind of the best to just have a large army, I think. And as a result, you can more easily retain your army. Here's some Muta, which is actually good news, because Muta are not very good at fighting, and they're just fighting the Hydras head on. So we are okay with that. And yeah, we are close to saturation. Remember, we were getting all 3 upgrades, so we're gonna start upgrading links soon. You'll notice our gas bank is kind of a constraining factor for the time being. We're gonna continue to saturate our bases and take extra bases right now, and we are now nearly maxed out. So just let things happen as they will. I wish I could pull up the production tab, but it pulls out the production tab for 10 people, so probably not the best way to go about it. Try to go after that Raven, didn't work out. There's a few stalkers here. And now that we are maxed out, we are gonna defend on one side and attack on the other side. I like to get my lurkers situated near ramps, so that they can cut off the reinforcements. This guy has ghosts, which is insane. And yeah, it's really nice, this setup, right? So we were talking about this ramp earlier and how important it is. So what's gonna happen here is the AI normally wants to go help their friends, and because it wants, we'll just continue playing as I explain. And because they want to help their friends, they have to go through here for the AI that's to the right or to the top of the map here. And that means they're gonna just run into our defenses, right? So we leave a few Hydras there, a few lurkers, and then push out with the rest. And we don't even need that many lurkers. I find like 4 or 5 lurkers is plenty there. We are getting set up in the back here, and then the reinforcements will help buffer for these lurkers whenever forces try to defend and help their allies from the other bases. So you can see there's going to be forces coming here, and we're not going to be paying too much attention. Before, what I was trying to do was snipe the buildings to force the AI to surrender quickly, but I find that's not super effective in these bases, because if you leave a little bit of clutter, a little bit of buildings, what ends up happening is they just re-expand, and they don't really care, and it just becomes visual clutter as well. So we are just kind of letting the Hydra Link do what they can to try and finish off the game as quickly as they can, to try to kill my opponents as quickly as they can. So here, continued reinforcements here, and we're gonna put it on my camera. You'll notice I'm mostly macroing. I'm trusting my lurkers here to make sure that nothing happens, and we're gonna start upgrades. There is a case to be made for waiting for those upgrades or getting them a little bit earlier so that we push out with the upgrades, but this is working out just fine regardless. So continue reinforcements, and again, not really focusing too much on killing key buildings. Also, the AI likes to drop cannons and spines in the back of their bases, so if you go for key buildings, you're gonna bleed out some units unless you first go for those cannons and spines. So now there's a few units clumped up here, so we're gonna move our units forward and let them do their thing. And on the other side, we are dropping a couple of spores in case Muta continue to show up and my Hydra reinforcements are not coming out, because right now our army retention is really high by virtue of us having a very strong army and not having lost too much in this process. So this is pretty good for us. Have already killed the guy on the right for the most part. He hasn't yet surrendered, but he will once we kill this Nexus. Now that we get to the back bases, less likely for the first bases to be well defended here from my opponents. So we are more likely to just pick off the CCs, the main bases basically, and see if they surrender. So just making sure we kill enough workers for that. And one thing that I have been doing as well is trying to block the bases, and this is in part thanks to the advice of one of my friends who suggested, hey, you should do something to block the bases. I decided that burrow might be the best way to do that, so that the AI can't re-expand. So you'll see I will start burrowing some circlings here and there to make sure that those bases can't be easily retaken. So we've cleared this side. Our 2 opponents on this side have already surrendered, so now it's effectively a 1 versus 8, and we are going to continue to hold this choke and push up to the golds, right? And yeah, we'll see how the game is going from there. I have a couple of different approaches where maybe I think I should clear the golds in the middle on both sides first, but this game I believe I didn't do that, and I just pushed through because momentum was good for us there. So you see on the minimap there's a link burrowed in each of the 4 other bases so that they can't be easily retaken. One thing that is important as well is to make sure you regroup And one thing that I need to do, or that I could do a little bit better, is make sure that that we don't float too much. Right now we have 91 workers, so at this point I think it would be a decent idea to start killing some of my workers, because I have enough of a bank that if my army retention is high, then less workers means more units, which means kill them faster, which is the goal. But it is a difficult line to thread, because if you ever run out of work, you know, if you're ever not maxed out, basically, it becomes horrible, and then you can't reinforce if you don't have enough workers. So it's again, it's a difficult line to play with, but it certainly can be done a little bit faster. As you can see, our bank is pretty big. So same concept on this base here. We have a few lurkers set up outside on the choke, on the choke that leads to this base. So a lot of their units are going to be running into these lurkers. And back here we are making a gold. As we have mostly cleared this area, this gold is pretty safe, because to get to it they would have to go through here or through here. Both places are closed off, so very, very unlikely. So again, just gonna continue to reinforce here, and at some point soon I imagine we would have to start getting Niduses, because we've pushed so far into the map that the fastest way to reinforce will be Nidus. Reinforce, evacuate, etc. You have to be really careful not to push too fast without having a lot of lurkers, and the reason for that again is army retention, right? Like lurkers are going to be the most efficient way that you can deal with large ground armies, which is primarily what the 10 AI are going to choose to do and like to do. And that means you kind of have to wait a lot of the time and be like, okay, like lurkers, let's just wait for those. Let's make sure that we have enough and not push too fast, because if you lose an army, you lose a lot of momentum, you lose a lot of time, you lose a lot of bank, right? And then you have to remake a lot of stuff and reinforce with from really far back. So gotta take care of those lurkers. That's why we're positioning some of those hydras there as well. We are just picking off the bases over here with some remaining forces while continuing to cut off reinforcements with the lurkers. Let's see what happens here. I think we've already saturated my base, at least partially. This also, from the advice of my friend Awesome Sauce, you don't want to make this let this AI surrender a little bit too early, because then the money will go to their opponents or to their friends. So instead we're just gonna let them live and not surrender until we're ready to let a lot of AI surrender all at once, basically, when their production is already halted for the most part. Because if they get more income, that means more units, that means you finish slower, right? So do not let them surrender.
Swarm forces under attack.
Let's continue to see what happens here. At this point we're getting the Niduses set up so that we can reinforce a little bit faster or retreat if we must. If you position your Nidus a little bit too far forward, the AI really does not like Nidus, so they will attack it. And you can see what we were talking about earlier here. Before moving on to the next base, even though we are mostly maxed out, we want to make sure that we have enough lurkers, and this is an example of the AI trying to get rid of the Nidus, even from the dying Protoss inside his own base, trying to make one immortal. So from here on out, we're gonna just continue to push on forward. Another AI surrenders here, and here come the rest of the reinforcements. We're gonna just let them run into the lurkers as we continue to finish these people off over here, and we already have links burrowed in each of those bases, so we should be mostly safe. A few units are still being produced by Purple, who has not yet surrendered, and we're gonna try to get a forward position here with the lurkers. Maybe drop a Nidus, I imagine. There it goes. And we're gonna get a good choke here, right? Like, there's two ramps leading to this position, which is why I chose this position. The lurkers are gonna do really good against any units coming up there, and that allows for the rest of our units to spill into those side bases one at a time and kill them. Yeah. Whenever the AI has air, it's usually just gonna be like one carrier, stuff like that, and you can see they really don't like Niduses, but you know, that's kind of fine. The Nidus tanked a bunch of damage from the carrier instead of the Hydras. 4 random lurkers here that we're gonna use to Nidus, and we're even gonna bring an extra one because it seems like we've mostly halted the attacks from the other side, and it is more likely for the AI to go help their friends at this point than attack me, right? The AI doesn't do a lot of counter-attacking, and all of their friends are north now. So before, when their friends were south, there was a good shot that the AI would want to go help their friends, and in that process would attack me, right? Because they had to go through that small choke. But now that all of their friends are north, we can relocate some of our defenses to absorb here instead, where they are going to be trying to defend instead. So again, clearing process here is a lot more careful than I was doing before. Those Hydras were actually misrallied, which is a little bit of a shame because we could have had a little bit more damage output a little bit faster. So you can see there's a little bit of optimizing still that can be done, and a little bit of optimizing in terms of like macro and just general gameplay, and you know, just playing a little bit better is certainly possible. So maybe I could bring this down a little bit, but this is by far my best time. My previous time was 28 minutes, and I thought that was pretty good for Zerg, but yeah, this time it's gonna be a little bit faster, so that's good. And you can see I'm really being careful not to push too fast, right? I want to kill a lot of these buildings first, which might seem counterintuitive because the AI might surrender if you kill just the key buildings. At this point, we're getting rid of some workers as well by getting those spines set up effectively. So spines are we're not going to be remaking those workers, and you can see that my bank is massive. That is another place that we can iterate, that we can do a little bit better. My bank should not be this big because we're never going to lose the army that we have. As you can see, the AI is mostly running out of steam, and that means their armies are not going to be as big as they once were, so they don't have the economy to sustain, and that means we probably should just have gotten rid of workers much earlier. If we had like a 5k bank, I would feel a lot better, because we would have had a lot more units killing stuff a little bit faster. So, but from here on out, it's a pretty straightforward process, right? Just Nidus to continue to get my reinforcements and whatnot, and hold the chokes with the lurkers, now with spines and spores, which I don't really care much about. It's just a way to get rid of my workers semi-fast.
Mineral field exhausted. Drones under attack.
So we're just gonna continue pushing here. And yeah, for the most part, I mean, this game is just mostly over. We've already gone through the difficult parts at the start, and it's just an issue of clearing things up as early as possible. We're gonna go after the golds first, because those are the ones that are giving my opponents any sort of economy to work with. And then we are just gonna clean up their bases. Again, I do want to give a shout out to my friend Awesome Sauce, because he helped me a lot in trying to think about the challenge and trying to figure out the most efficient ways to do it. So yeah, blocking stuff, not letting the AI surrender, and nidusing, for example, stuff like that, like we discussed. So shared a lot of ideas there, and certainly helped me to make this a little bit more efficient, a little bit faster. So always good. He also made a really cool spreadsheet which shows the damage values of the units, the DPS output basically of each unit for Protoss and Zerg. And so you can check that out. I'll link it in the description for this video if you are curious about what the most efficient or fastest way to kill your opponent would be. Lynx and Hydras have insane amounts of DPS. As you would imagine, they're gonna kind of glass cannon units, but you are liable to lose them. So even though lurkers don't have as much DPS, they have the AoE, which is impossible to account for in that sort of sheet, and they are excellent, probably the best Zerg unit at killing armies. So that is kind of the backbone of this strategy, is going to be the lurkers for dealing with the armies, and then the Hydras and Lynx to clear buildings quickly and just generally kill stuff with attack move, right, where there's a lot less micro required, so you can focus on other things. You can see the power of the Nidus as well, right? Like there's a little bit left over at the top, so we can just send a few units there and it's no big deal. Continue to try to spend some money in spores and spines just to get rid of those drones. At this point we could probably grab every drone that we have and suicide it, but my opponents have so little that it's kind of difficult. We're at 50 drones now, that's kind of reasonable, but yeah, I should probably just get rid of all of them at this point, or earlier, right? And through the Nidus, I could also do that a little bit faster too. But yeah, just finishing this game off from this point on. So you can see we still haven't let the AI surrender, and we're gonna click a lot of surrenders at a time there.
Swarm forces under attack.
Oh, there we go.
Forces under attack.
So just continuing with the Nidus, and yeah, this is just cleanup from here on. If you guys have any questions about the strategy, about how it could be optimized, etc., then let me know. I've thought a lot about like what the best units are and what the best strategies are, and I think this is the best that I have come up with so far. There are other ways that I will try to do things as well, like for example in this particular game, we're accepting surrenders now. In this particular game, we went for a gasless opening, and we tried to be as greedy as possible with a 4 hatch before pool. But there's another approach that I've also tried with some success, which is go to 3 hatcheries and drop a lurker then in time for the first attack. So if I can have just 2 lurkers, but by 5 minutes, then they can kind of hold the attack on their own, more or less, the first waves, and then we don't have to invest into spines, which sounds like a good thing. The problem is our economy is not as developed because we go for the gas so early that it kind of hinders you. So I have to try that approach a little bit more and see if I can make it work, because there is a lot of money saved in getting the spines, and a lot of benefit as well to getting the tech a little bit earlier, right? Because you can then get the lurker upgrades a little bit faster, and potentially if you can gather the numbers with a lower drone count, then you can move out a little bit faster. But yeah, also, you know, with lower drone count, less reinforcements, and a little bit tighter on how much you can do to really reinforce and kill your opponent faster and all of that. So I think this is probably the best way to do it, but I'll try other ways as well. And yeah, that's gonna be it. So that was a 24 minutes and 17-second run, which, as far as I know so far, in just a couple of days of the challenge, is the fastest by any Zerg at the moment. So yeah, that was the 1 versus 10 AI pig challenge. I will also link in the description the tweet that pig made, so that you guys can go check it out and try it yourselves if you would like. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. See you.